Imagine this. Two people sit down at the same table with exactly the same paycheck, the same age, the same education. One ends up wealthy and calm. The other ends up stressed, chasing, and never quite feeling enough. They didn't differ in intelligence. They didn't differ in luck, at least not dramatically. What separated them was something far more powerful and far less talked about. How they thought about money. Not spreadsheets. Not stock picks. Not secret formulas. Just the quiet stories, feelings, and beliefs they carried inside about what money means, what it can and cannot do, and how it should behave in their lives. This audiobook isn't about getting rich quick. It isn't about beating the market or predicting the next big thing. It's about understanding the simple, timeless ways human psychology shapes every money decision we make. Yours, mine, everyone's. Because once you see money through the lens of behavior rather than just math, a lot of things that once felt confusing or unfair suddenly make sense. You stop judging yourself so harshly. You stop envying others so blindly. You start making choices that feel right for you, not for the highlight reel. Over the next few chapters we'll walk through ideas that have quietly shaped how millions of people build and keep wealth, peace, and freedom with money. Some will feel obvious once you hear them. Some will surprise you. All of them are designed to be remembered and used for the rest of your life. No finance degree required. So settle in. Turn the volume up just a little. Maybe grab a cup of tea or coffee. We are going on a gentle, honest journey together, not to chase more money, but to build a healthier, happier relationship with money. Because the most valuable things money can buy aren't things at all. They are time, options, security, generosity, and the ability to wake up and say, "Today, I get to live life on my terms." Let's begin. Chapter 1. No one's crazy. Hey friend. Welcome to the very first chapter. Before we dive into all the smart money lessons, let's start with something super important. When it comes to money, no one's actually crazy. You know how sometimes you look at what someone else does with their cash and think, what on earth are they thinking? Maybe your cousin buys the latest phone every year even though they're always short on rent. Or your friend refuses to invest in stocks because the market crashed once and wiped out my uncle. Or maybe someone you know saves every single penny and lives like they're broke, even though they have a good job. From the outside, these choices can look wild. We shake our heads and say, that's just crazy. But here's the gentle truth. Almost no one is crazy. Their decisions make perfect sense to them. Why? Because the way each of us sees money comes straight from our own little slice of life. Think about it. Your personal experiences with money, the good ones, the scary ones, the happy surprises, they make up maybe 0.000000001% of everything that's ever happened in the world. Yet those tiny experiences might shape 80% of how you think money works. Let me give you a couple of everyday examples to show what I mean. Imagine two people the same age, same job, same paycheck. One grew up in the 1990s and early 2000s, when stocks kept going up for years. Their parents probably invested a bit and did well. So this person looks at the stock market and thinks, hey, this is a great way to grow money. Let's put some in. They feel optimistic. Risk feels exciting, not scary. Now the other person? They were a kid or young adult during a big economic crash, maybe the 2008 financial crisis, or even earlier tough times. They saw parents lose jobs, houses get taken away, savings disappear overnight. To them, the stock market looks like a dangerous game. Why risk it? They think. Better to keep cash safe under the mattress or in a low-interest account. They feel cautious. Risk feels like a threat. Both people are smart. Both are trying to do the right thing. But their right thing looks completely different because life taught them different lessons. Neither is crazy. They're just working with the world they know. This happens with saving too. Some folks grew up in families where money was always tight. Every rupee was counted twice. So they save aggressively, even when they could enjoy a little more. It feels safe and smart to them. Others grew up comfortable, never worried about the next meal. They might spend more freely because that's what feels normal. Again, both approaches make sense in their own story. Even big life moments shape this. Did you watch your parents argue about bills? That might make you hate debt forever. Did you see a relative get rich quick from one good investment? That might make you chase big wins. Or maybe you lost money in a bad scheme once, so now you distrust everything new. All of it adds up to your own personal money map. The funny part? We forget this when we judge others. We think our map is the only correct one. Why don't they just save more? Or why are they so scared of stocks? But we are all walking around with different maps, drawn from different roads we've traveled. Here's something cool to remember. Money decisions aren't like math problems with one right answer. Money is more like psychology. It's emotional. It's personal. What feels logical to you might feel terrifying to me, and that's okay. So the big lesson right here at the start is simple. Be kind to yourself and to others when it comes to money choices. Stop calling things crazy so quickly. Instead, ask gently, what life experiences made this feel like the best move to them? When you understand that, everything starts to make more sense. You stop getting frustrated with people, including yourself, and start getting curious. And curiosity is where real learning begins. This idea sets the tone for everything else we'll talk about. Because once we accept that no one's crazy, we are all just shaped by our own unique journey, we can drop the judgment and open up to better ways of thinking about money. The goal isn't to force everyone into the same box. The goal is to help you build a healthy, happy relationship with money that fits your life. One that brings peace instead of stress. So take a deep breath, my friend. You're not crazy. The people around you aren't crazy either. We are all just doing our best with the tiny piece of the world we've lived through. And that's a pretty good place to start. Chapter 2. Luck and Risk. They are two sides of the same coin. Friend, grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and let's talk about something that quietly runs almost every money story you've ever heard. Luck and risk. Most of us love tidy success stories. We read about someone who became super rich and think, wow, they must be really smart. I should copy exactly what they did. Or we hear about someone who lost everything and think, they were so reckless. I would never do that. But here's the gentle twist that changes everything. Luck and risk are brothers. They look different, but they live in the same house. You can't have one without the other hanging around somewhere. Let me paint two pictures for you. Picture someone who starts a company in 1995, pours everything into making software for the brand new internet, works crazy hours, and by 2005 they're a billionaire. The headlines say, genius entrepreneur. Visionary. Everyone wants their investment tips. Now picture someone else. Same age, same education, same work ethic. They also start a company in 1995. They work just as hard, maybe even harder. But their idea was for a type of online shopping that needed faster internet speeds, which didn't arrive until much later. The company runs out of money in 2001 and closes. That person ends up with almost nothing. What's the difference between these two people? The first one got lucky with perfect timing. The second one took almost the same risk, but the timing didn't cooperate. One looks brilliant. The other looks foolish. Yet both made similar choices with similar skills. The truth is, good outcomes don't always come from good decisions, and bad outcomes don't always come from bad decisions. Sometimes the world just rolls the dice at the exact right, or wrong, moment. This isn't about saying nothing matters, it's all luck. Hard work, smart choices, and good habits matter a lot. But they don't guarantee anything. They just give you more tickets in the lottery of life. The more tickets you buy through effort and skill, the better your chances, but you still don't control which ticket wins. Think about investing for a second. Someone puts money into shares of a small tech company in 2010 because they really believe in the product. 10 years later, that company is one of the biggest in the world. Everyone calls them a genius investor. Someone else puts money into a different small company in 2010 with the same belief and research. That company fails because a bigger competitor copies the idea faster, or a new law changes everything. That investor loses most of their money. Were they stupid? No. They just drew the short straw on risk that time. Here's the part that really helps when you hear these stories. Stop worshipping or judging the outcome so much. Judge the process instead. Did they think carefully? Did they avoid huge unnecessary gambles? Did they learn from mistakes? Were they patient when it mattered? If the answer is yes to most of those, then respect the person, even if the result was terrible. And if someone got amazing results mostly because everything lined up perfectly for them, admire the luck. But don't assume you can copy the exact same path and get the same ending. This idea protects you in two big ways. First, it keeps you humble when things go really well. You start a side business and it explodes. Wonderful. Celebrate. But quietly remind yourself, some of this was luck. The economy was growing. My timing was good. Competitors were slow. That humility stops you from taking crazy risks later, thinking you're invincible. Second, it keeps you kind to yourself when things go badly. You invest carefully, save regularly, avoid debt traps, and then a surprise job loss, a health issue, or a market crash hits hard. It's easy to beat yourself up. I'm terrible with money. No. You played a good hand. The cards just didn't fall your way this time. Luck and risk are everywhere, and they love to stay invisible. We see the winner on stage and hear about their secret formula. We rarely hear the full story of the 10 similar people who tried the same thing and didn't make it. So we end up thinking success is 100% skill, when really it's often skill plus a generous helping of good fortune. The timeless lesson here is simple and freeing. Focus on what you can control. You control how much you save, how patiently you invest, how much crazy risk you avoid, how you treat people, which opens unexpected doors, how you keep learning. You don't control when the next big crash happens, whether your industry suddenly changes, who your biggest competitor turns out to be, whether the economy smiles on your timing. So do the best with your side of the table. Play the game well. And when luck shows up, good or bad, remember it's part of the deal for everyone. No one gets through life without both luck and risk sitting in the passenger seat. The trick is not pretending they aren't there. Chapter 3. Never enough. Imagine this. A person earns more in a single year than most people will see in a lifetime. They live in a mansion, travel by private jet, own yachts, collect rare art. From the outside, it looks like they've made it. Yet inside, they're still chasing the next deal, the next million, the next headline. Friends whisper, "When is enough, enough?" The quiet truth is this. For many people, the goalpost of enough keeps moving. No matter how much money arrives, the feeling of "I need more" doesn't always go away. And that feeling can be one of the most expensive emotions you'll ever carry. Why does this happen? It starts with something called comparison. We don't measure our wealth against what we actually need to live happily. We measure it against the people around us, or worse, against the polished version of life we see online, in magazines, or on screens. When your neighbor upgrades to a bigger house, your perfectly fine home suddenly feels small. When a colleague talks about their vacation in a faraway place, your own trips start looking ordinary. Social media is especially good at this trick. It shows only the shiny parts, never the credit card bills behind them. There's a name for this: the comparison trap. The moment you start using someone else's highlight reel as your benchmark, enough slips out of reach. Because no matter how far you climb, there's always someone higher up the ladder waving down. Another piece of the puzzle is lifestyle creep. As income goes up, spending quietly creeps up too. A better car feels deserved after a promotion. A nicer apartment seems reasonable once you can afford the rent. Eating out more often becomes normal. New clothes, better gadgets, fancier experiences, they all slide in so smoothly you barely notice. Before long, Your bigger paycheck is fully spoken for, and you're back to feeling like you're just getting by. Here's the part that really matters. The people who get caught in the never enough cycle often aren't happier for it. Studies that follow people over many years show something surprising. Once your basic needs are met, food, shelter, safety, some healthcare, extra money buys less and less happiness. The jump from struggling to comfortable brings a big lift in well-being. But the jump from comfortable to wealthy? It's usually small, sometimes invisible. So why do so many keep running? Part of it is fear. Deep down, some people worry that if they slow down, everything could disappear tomorrow. They've seen friends lose jobs, markets crash, businesses fail. Saving more, earning more feels like insurance against that fear. It's not always greed. It can be protection dressed up as ambition. Another part is identity. For some, money becomes proof they're winning at life. Stopping the chase can feel like admitting defeat. If I'm not building more, who am I? That question can be scary, so the race continues. The antidote isn't to stop caring about money. It's to get very clear on what enough actually means for you. Ask yourself a few honest questions. How much do I need each year to cover the life I truly want? Not the life that looks impressive to others, but the one that feels peaceful and meaningful to me. What would change if I hit that number? Would I work less? Travel differently? Spend more time with people I love? Am I willing to protect that number once I reach it, instead of always stretching for the next one? When you have a personal definition of enough, it becomes your guardrail. You can still aim high, take smart risks, build wealth. But you do it from a place of choice, not from a place of endless hunger. Here's a small story to carry with you. There was once a fisherman who spent his mornings catching just enough fish to feed his family and sell a little at the market. In the afternoons he napped in the sun, played with his kids, talked with friends. A wealthy visitor saw this and said, "Why don't you work harder? Catch more fish, buy a bigger boat, hire helpers, build a fleet. In 10 years you could be rich." The fisherman asked, "And then what?" "Then you could retire, move to a quiet village, fish a little in the morning, nap in the afternoon, spend time with your family." The fisherman smiled. "Isn't that what I'm doing right now?" Sometimes the life we are chasing is already within reach, if we stop moving the goalposts. The timeless lesson in this chapter is gentle but powerful. Learning to recognize when you have enough is one of the most valuable financial skills anyone can master. It saves you from trading your time, your health, and your peace for things that won't fill the hole you're trying to fix. Money is a wonderful servant. But when never enough takes the driver's seat, it becomes a harsh master. You get to decide who's in charge. Chapter 4. Getting Rich versus Staying Rich. Picture two different journeys with money. One is the exciting climb, building wealth from little or nothing. The other is the quieter challenge, keeping that wealth safe for years, maybe decades, and passing it on without watching it slip away. Most people focus almost all their attention on the first part, getting rich. It's flashy. It's full of stories about startups, bold investments, side hustles that explode. But the second part, staying rich, is often the harder one, and it requires a completely different set of skills and mindset. Why is staying rich so tricky? Getting rich often rewards taking big risks. You might pour everything into one idea, work insane hours, borrow money to grow faster, bet on something unproven. When it works, the payoff can be massive. That same bold energy, optimism, aggression, willingness to swing for the fences, helped create the wealth. But once you have it, those same traits can destroy it. The things that get you to the top are rarely the things that keep you there. The aggressive investor who made a fortune in one hot sector might lose it all chasing the next hot thing. The entrepreneur who risked it all on their first business might keep risking it all on every new idea, even when they no longer need to. The person who lived on ramen noodles and saved every penny to build wealth might suddenly feel they deserve luxury, and spend it faster than it grows. Staying rich is about survival. It's less about spectacular wins and more about avoiding spectacular losses. Here are a few key differences that separate the two. Risk tolerance flips to get rich. You often need to embrace volatility. Big ups and downs are part of the game. To stay rich, you need paranoia about what could go wrong. One bad decision, one black swan event, one market crash can erase years of progress. The goal becomes protecting what you have, not necessarily multiplying it at all costs. Compounding becomes king when you're starting out. You need high returns to make a real difference. 20% growth on a small amount is exciting but still small in absolute terms. Once you have a large base, even modest returns compound powerfully over time. 7% or 8% consistently, without big losses, turns millions into tens of millions. The real magic isn't chasing 30% returns. It's avoiding the minus 50% years that wipe you out. Time horizon lengthens. Getting rich is often a sprint, or feels like one. You want results soon. Staying rich is a marathon across generations. You start thinking in decades, not years. You protect against inflation, taxes, family drama, bad advice, lawsuits, health surprises. Patience and conservatism become superpowers. Ego takes a back seat. Building wealth can feed pride. I did this myself. Keeping it requires humility. Admitting you don't know everything. Saying no to tempting deals. Listening to boring but wise advice. Hiring people smarter than you in certain areas. It's less glamorous, more disciplined. A classic example is what happens after a windfall. Lottery winners, athletes with big contracts, startup founders who sell for millions. Many go broke within a few years. Why? Because the skills that earn the money, risk-taking, spending to look successful, chasing the next win, don't match the skills needed to keep it. Frugality relative to wealth, diversification, saying no. The people who stay wealthy for a long time usually follow a few quiet rules. They keep a margin of safety. They don't invest or spend right up to the edge of what they can afford. They diversify, not just investments, but income sources, relationships, and knowledge. They live below their means, even when their means grow huge. They plan for surprises, emergency funds, insurance, estate planning. They treat money as a long-term partner, not a score to beat. Here's the gentle takeaway. If you ever reach a point where you have real wealth, celebrate it. But then shift gears. The game changes. What got you here won't necessarily keep you here. Getting rich is about taking smart chances. Staying rich is about avoiding ruin. Both matter, but the second one is what turns a fortune into lasting security, freedom, and peace. Chapter 5. Tails. You win. Most of us picture success like a smooth, steady climb. You work hard, make smart choices, and the rewards come in nice, even steps. But the real world of money doesn't work that way. A huge portion of wealth, especially the biggest fortunes, comes from a small number of extreme, unexpected wins. These are the tail events, rare, powerful outcomes that sit way out on the far right side of the probability curve. Think of it like this. Imagine you flip a coin 100 times. Most flips land heads or tails in a pretty balanced way. But what if one single flip somehow paid you 1,000,000 times more than all the others combined? That one flip, the tail, would dominate everything. Your total result wouldn't look like an average of 50 heads and 50 tails. It would be shaped almost entirely by that one massive outlier. That's how a lot of money works in real life. A handful of investments, decisions, or lucky breaks create most of the wealth for individuals, companies, and even entire markets. The rest? They mostly break even, lose a little, or quietly support the system. Here are a few everyday examples to make it clearer. Venture capital is a classic tail game. Most startups fail or return modest results. But a tiny percentage become massive winners. Companies like Amazon, Google, or Tesla in their early days. Those few huge successes more than pay for all the losses and still deliver enormous overall returns. The funds that win big aren't the ones that avoid losses best. They're the ones that capture the rare tails. The same pattern shows up in individual investing. Many people spread their money across dozens of stocks, hoping for steady gains. But studies of long-term market winners show that a very small number of stocks account for almost all the market's gains over decades. The rest either tread water or drag the average down. If you miss those few massive winners, your returns look ordinary. If you catch even one or two tails, your wealth can leap forward dramatically. Books, music, movies, businesses, same story. Most authors sell a few thousand copies. A tiny fraction become mega bestsellers and earn millions. Most restaurants close within a few years. A few become chains or cultural icons. Most startups fade away. A handful reshape industries. The point isn't that everything is random. Skill, persistence, and good decisions still matter. They increase your chances of being in the game long enough to catch a tail. But the payoff isn't evenly spread. It's lumpy, skewed, and often unfair-looking. So what does this mean for everyday people trying to build wealth? First, don't chase average returns too hard. Trying to perfectly optimize every percentage point can blind you to the bigger picture. Survival, staying in the game, is often more important than squeezing out extra returns early on. Because tails need time to appear. You have to survive long enough for one to land in your lap. Second, embrace asymmetry when you can find it. Look for situations where the upside is much larger than the downside. A small amount of money invested in something with huge potential, a new skill, a side project, a calculated investment, can change everything if it works. The cost of being wrong is limited, but the reward if right is life-altering. Third, be wary of strategies that depend on avoiding tails on the downside. Some people try to time the market perfectly or avoid every possible loss. But avoiding all risk often means missing the upside tails too. Markets, careers, and life reward those who can stomach volatility long enough for the good extremes to show up. Here's a practical way to think about it in your own life. Save consistently and invest regularly. That's your ticket to the game. Diversify enough so one bad bet doesn't ruin you. But don't diversify so much that you water down your chance at a big win. Be patient. Tails are rare. They might take 10, 20, or 30 years to appear. And when a tail does show up, a career break, a smart investment that grows, an idea that takes off, don't rush to sell or take profits too early. Let the winners run. One quiet mindset shift helps a lot. Stop judging success by what happens in a single year or even a decade. Look at the long arc. The people who end up with serious wealth often have periods of nothing special happening, followed by one or two explosive moves that change the trajectory forever. The timeless lesson here is freeing. You don't need to be brilliant every single day. You don't need to win every bet. You just need to be consistently reasonable, stay in the arena, and give yourself enough shots for a tail to land in your favor. Because in the game of money, tails drive most of the results. And tails favor those who are patient, diversified, and still playing when the rare opportunity knocks. Chapter 6. Freedom. Money is many things to many people. Security, status, power, comfort. But at its deepest level, the thing most of us really chase when we chase money is freedom. Not the flashy kind, private jets and endless vacations, though those can be nice. The quieter, more powerful freedom. The ability to do what you want, when you want, with whom you want, for as long as you want, without being forced into anything by money worries. Freedom comes in different shapes, and money helps unlock almost all of them. There's freedom of time. You wake up in the morning and decide how to spend your day, not because a boss or a schedule demands it, but because you choose. You can say no to work that drains you. You can say yes to projects that light you up. You can be there for the school play, the sick friend, the quiet morning walk, without checking if it fits the calendar. There's freedom of location. Live where the weather suits your soul. Move closer to family. Travel for months without burning vacation days. Work from a mountain cabin or a beach town if that's what calls to you. Money gives you the option to stop being tied to one postcode just because the job is there. There's freedom from fear. The fear that one medical bill could wipe you out. The fear that losing your job means losing your home. The fear that old age will be a struggle instead of a gentle chapter. When you have enough saved and invested wisely, that knot in your stomach loosens. You sleep better. You argue less about bills. You stop saying yes to things you hate just to keep the paycheck coming. There's freedom to give. Help a friend in trouble without hesitating. Support causes you care about. Teach your kids that generosity is normal, not something you do only when you're rich enough. Money amplifies your ability to be kind in ways that matter. And perhaps the most precious, freedom of identity. When money isn't controlling your choices, you can finally ask, who do I want to be? Not what job pays the most, or what looks good on LinkedIn. You can take the lower-paying role that feels meaningful. You can start the passion project that might never make money. You can retire early, change careers late in life, or simply stop chasing titles and start chasing peace. Here's the part that surprises people. You don't need to be a multimillionaire to taste real freedom. Freedom isn't a number on a bank statement. It's a gap between what you spend and what you earn or have saved. The wider that gap, the more choices open up. A person earning a modest salary, but spending far less than they make often has more freedom than someone earning 10 times as much but trapped by lifestyle inflation. Think about two people. Person A earns a high salary but spends almost all of it. Big house, nice cars, frequent travel, private schools. They're always one missed paycheck away from stress. They can't walk away from a toxic job. Their freedom is narrow, no matter the income. Person B earns a comfortable but not extravagant salary, lives simply, saves half their income, invests patiently. They have a paid-off home or a fat emergency fund. They can quit a bad job tomorrow and take 6 months to figure out what's next. Their freedom is wide, even though their bank balance looks smaller. The lesson isn't to live like a miser. It's to build a life where money serves your freedom instead of the other way around. A few gentle ways to move toward that. Define your number. What income or savings level would let you feel free? Not the Instagram version of free, the real one, for your life. Protect your time ruthlessly. Money can buy back time, but only if you spend it that way. Build a freedom fund. Cash or investments you never touch except in true emergencies or true opportunities. Practice voluntary simplicity now. Live below your means even when you could live above them. The habit compounds faster than interest. Remember that freedom is also about control over your calendar and your energy, not just your wallet. The most beautiful thing about chasing financial freedom is that it doesn't require you to become someone else. You don't have to turn into a workaholic or a risk junkie. You just have to be intentional. Save more than you need to spend, invest patiently, avoid debt traps, and let time do its quiet work. When money stops being the boss of your decisions, you get to be the boss of your life. Chapter 7. Man in the Car Paradox. There's a quiet little story that explains so much about why people chase money the way they do. Imagine a young man driving a shiny, expensive sports car. It's loud, it's fast, it turns heads. As he cruises down the street, people look over. Some admire, some envy, a few roll their eyes. He feels important, seen, successful. Now picture an older man in the same car, same model, same color. He's driving to the grocery store or picking up his grandkids. People still glance, but the reaction is different. A few might think, nice car, but most don't care much. The car doesn't carry the same magic anymore. What changed? The car is exactly the same. The difference is the man inside it. We often buy things, cars, clothes, watches, houses, vacations, not just for how they feel to us, but for how we imagine they make us look to other people. We tell ourselves the fancy thing will bring respect, admiration, love, or at least envy. But here's the gentle twist that hits hard once you see it. People don't admire you for the thing. They admire you for what they think owning the thing says about you. They think, if he can afford that watch, he must be successful, smart, rich, cool. So the real desire isn't the watch. It's the feeling of being seen as successful, smart, rich, or cool. But once you have the thing, the magic fades fast. Because now you're just another person who owns it. The admiration doesn't stick to you, it sticks, temporarily, to the object. And objects get old, get copied, get outdated. The feeling you were chasing moves on to the next shiny thing. This creates a loop that's surprisingly common. Buy something expensive to feel impressive, get a quick hit of attention fade, feel the need to buy something even more impressive, repeat. It's exhausting. And expensive. Because you're not buying utility or joy, you're buying a temporary social signal. And social signals are the most perishable thing in the world. The paradox goes deeper. The people whose respect you want most, the ones you're trying to impress, often aren't even paying attention the way you think. They're too busy worrying about their own signals. The neighbor with the big house isn't thinking, "Wow, look at their new car." They're thinking, "I need a bigger garage for my new boat." Everyone is starring in their own movie. You're mostly just an extra in theirs. So who are we really trying to impress? Often, it's a version of ourselves from 10 years ago. The kid who felt invisible, the young adult who got overlooked, the person who once struggled. We buy things to prove to that younger self, "See? We made it. We are not that person anymore." That's human. It's understandable. But it's also one of the sneakiest ways money can quietly work against happiness. Here's the freeing part. You can break the loop by asking a simple question before any big purchase. Is this for me? Or is this for the person I want other people to think I am? If it's mostly the second one, pause. The joy from impressing others is short-lived and unreliable. The joy from something that genuinely fits your life, comfort, convenience, beauty you love, time saved, lasts longer and doesn't depend on anyone else's gaze. A few small mindset shifts help. Treat expensive things as tools, not trophies. A nice car is great if it's reliable, fun to drive, and fits your needs. It stops being great when its main job is to broadcast status, find admiration in quieter places. Respect from people who know your character, your kindness, your reliability, that lasts. It doesn't fade when the car gets a scratch. Remember that true confidence doesn't need a logo. The most secure people often look the most ordinary because they don't need the props anymore. Give yourself permission to enjoy nice things without the performance. Buy what you love, not what you think will make others love you. The man in the car only feels big until he realizes the car isn't what made him feel big. He was chasing a feeling he thought the car would deliver. But feelings like that come from inside, from knowing your worth isn't tied to horsepower or square footage. Money can buy comfort, safety, options, experiences. It can't reliably buy the lasting respect or love we sometimes hope it will. When you stop renting admiration from objects, you save a fortune. And you start spending on things that actually make your days better, not just your image shinier. Chapter 8. Wealth is what you don't see. Here's one of the most useful ways to look at money that almost nobody talks about openly. Real wealth is invisible. We see the flashy parts, the big house, the luxury car, the expensive vacation photos, and we think, that person is rich. But those are the things people spend money on. They're the opposite of wealth. They're the things that reduce wealth. True wealth is what remains after you've spent everything you could have spent. It's the money quietly sitting in investments you never touch. It's the paid-off house you could sell tomorrow but don't need to. It's the emergency fund that lets you sleep through market crashes. It's the savings that let you walk away from a bad job without panic. It's the freedom that comes from not needing to show off. Most of what looks like wealth is really just rich-looking debt or high spending. Someone driving a 50 Indian rupees lakh car might have borrowed most of it. Someone living in a 10 Indian rupees crore house might be stretched thin on mortgage payments. Someone posting from 5-star resorts might be putting it all on credit cards. From the outside, they look wealthy. From the inside, they might be one surprise bill away from stress. The truly wealthy often look boring. They drive a reliable, 10-year-old car that's paid for. They live in a nice but not extravagant house they bought years ago. Their clothes are good quality but not logo heavy. They don't post every trip or meal. They don't feel the need to prove anything. Why? Because they understand something powerful. Showing off is the fastest way to go from rich to not rich. Every rupee spent to impress others is a rupee that can't compound quietly in the background. Every flashy purchase is a choice to trade future freedom for present applause. There's a simple mental model that helps spot the difference. Spending money shows what you can afford today, saving and investing money shows what you could afford tomorrow, but choose not to. The second one is real wealth. It's invisible power. It's control. It's options that nobody else can see. Think about two people earning the same salary. Person A spends almost everything, upgrades the car every few years, renovates the house constantly, takes big trips, eats out often. Their lifestyle looks impressive. Their bank balance and investments? Thin. Person B earns the same but lives on half. The rest goes into boring index funds, a retirement account, a small real estate down payment. Their lifestyle looks ordinary. But behind the scenes, their net worth grows steadily. After 10 or 15 years, Person B has real wealth, money that works for them, money they don't have to work for. From the outside, Person A might seem richer. From the balance sheet, Person B is. Here's the gentle truth. Most people who look wealthy aren't. And many people who are wealthy don't look it at all. The people who stay wealthy for generations understand this instinctively. They treat visible spending like a tax on future wealth. They ask, do I want this thing? Or do I want the freedom that comes from not buying this thing? Most of the time, they choose the freedom. A few quiet signs of invisible wealth. You have money in places you rarely check because it's growing without you. You can lose your main income tomorrow and still cover expenses for years. You say no to things you can easily afford because they don't fit your long-term goals. Your biggest financial wins come from patience, not from clever trades or hot tips. You feel calm during market drops because you know you don't have to sell. Wealth isn't about the car in the driveway. It's about the engine under the hood of your life, the one that keeps running even when the shiny paint fades. So next time you see someone with all the visible markers of success, smile kindly. They might be rich in stuff, but the person who looks ordinary but owns their time, their choices, their peace, that's the one with real wealth. It's the wealth you can't photograph, but it's the wealth that lasts. Chapter 9. Save money. If you could pick just one financial habit that does more heavy lifting than almost anything else, it would be this one: save money. Not invest brilliantly. Not earn a sky-high salary. Not pick the perfect stocks. Just save, consistently, automatically, and without drama. Saving is the foundation everything else stands on. It's quiet. It's boring. It doesn't get likes or headlines. But it's the single most reliable way to build wealth over time, especially when your income isn't extraordinary. Here's why saving matters so much more than most people realize. First, saving gives you control. When you have cash set aside, life surprises stop feeling like emergencies. A $5,000 car repair? You pay it and move on. Job loss? You have months to find the right next step instead of taking the first offer that comes. Medical bill? You breathe easier. That control reduces stress, which lets you think clearer, take smarter risks, and sleep better. Money problems are often stress problems in disguise, and saving is the best stress reliever there is. Second, saving is the raw material for compounding. You can't invest what you don't have. Every dollar you save is a dollar that can start working for you. Put $10,000 into a simple index fund earning an average 7% per year, after inflation, a realistic long-term stock market return, and in 30 years it grows to about $76,000, without adding another cent. That's the power of time plus consistent saving. The earlier you start, the less you need to save each month to reach the same number later. Third, saving buys you freedom faster than earning more does. Imagine two people. Person A earns $150,000 a year but spends $140,000. They save $10,000 annually. Person B earns $80,000 a year but spends $40,000. They save $40,000 annually. Even though Person A earns almost twice as much, Person B is building wealth 4 times faster. After 10 years, ignoring investment returns for simplicity, Person B has saved $400,000. Person A has saved $100,000. Who feels freer? Who can walk away from a bad job? Who has more options? Almost always, it's the higher saver. The math is brutal but honest. Your savings rate is often more powerful than your salary. A good savings rate looks different depending on where you are in life. But here are some rough guideposts in US dollars. 10 to 15% of income, solid start. You're ahead of most people. 20–30%. Excellent. This level starts opening real doors within 10 to 15 years. 40–50% plus. Transformative. At this rate, financial independence can arrive in 10 to 17 years even on a moderate income, assuming reasonable investment returns. How do people actually hit higher savings rates without feeling deprived? It starts with redefining normal. Most of the spending that eats savings isn't luxury, it's unconscious autopilot. Subscriptions you forget about, eating out because it's convenient, upgrading phones every year, bigger houses because everyone does it, cars that cost more than necessary. When you question what's truly normal for your happiness, not for social media or neighbors, a surprising amount of money becomes optional. A few practical habits that help without turning life into a monk's routine. Pay yourself first. The moment your paycheck hits, move 20 to 30%, or whatever you can, straight into savings or investments. Treat it like a non-negotiable bill. What's left is what you live on. It flips the script. Instead of "I'll save whatever's left," you force "I'll live on whatever's left after saving." Automate everything. Set up automatic transfers the day after payday. Out of sight, out of mind. Humans are terrible at manual discipline. Automation removes the temptation to spend first and save later. Build the emergency fund before aggressive investing. Aim for 3 to 6 months of living expenses in cash or safe, liquid places. High-yield savings accounts paying 4 to 5% these days are great. Once that's in place, extra savings can go into stocks, retirement accounts, or other growth assets. Use the no lifestyle inflation rule. When you get a raise, bonus, or side income, pretend it never happened. Keep living on your old budget and send the extra straight to savings. A $10,000 raise that gets saved instead of spent adds $100,000 plus to your net worth over 20 years with compounding. Target big wins over small cuts. Cutting $5 coffees is fine, but it's tiny compared to living in a home that costs 25% of take-home pay instead of 40–50%. Driving a reliable used car paid in cash instead of a new one financed for 6 years. Avoiding consumer debt entirely, credit cards, personal loans, buy now pay later. These choices save thousands every year with one decision. One last powerful idea. Your savings rate is your speedometer for financial freedom. There's a rough but useful chart many people use, based on historical market returns. Save 10%, about 51 years to financial independence. Save 20%, about 37 years. Save 30%, about 28 years. Save 40%, about 22 years. Save 50%, about 17 years. Save 60% plus, 10 to 13 years possible. These aren't promises. They assume average returns and no major setbacks. But they show how dramatically your timeline shortens as your savings rate rises. You don't need to become a high earner. You need to become a high keeper. Saving isn't sexy. It won't make you popular at parties. No one will post "just saved another $2,000 this month" with a champagne emoji. But it's the closest thing to a cheat code in personal finance. Because once you save enough, the game changes. You stop working for money. Money starts working for you. You gain the ultimate luxury: time. Time to rest. Time to create. Time with people you love. Time to become who you actually want to be. Start small if you need to. Even 5% is better than zero. Then nudge it up as life allows. Celebrate every increase like a victory, because it is. In a world obsessed with earning more, spending more, and looking richer, the people who quietly save more end up with the most real power. They don't just have money. They have choices. They have peace. They have time. Chapter 10. Reasonable, rational. Most people approach money with the goal of being perfectly rational. They want the optimal choice every time, the highest return, the lowest fee, the mathematically best decision. They read studies, run spreadsheets, compare every option down to the decimal point. They aim to be the smartest person in the room when it comes to finance. But here's the gentle reality that changes everything. Being perfectly rational often backfires. What looks optimal on paper can be a disaster in real life because humans aren't machines. We have emotions, limited willpower, changing circumstances, family pressures, health surprises, and the simple fact that life is unpredictable. The people who do best with money over the long run aren't usually the most rational. They're the most reasonable. Reasonable means good enough decisions that you can actually stick with for decades, even when things get boring, scary, or uncomfortable. Rational means theoretically perfect decisions that might require superhuman discipline, constant monitoring, or tolerance for huge short-term pain. The difference matters a lot more than most people expect. Let's look at a few everyday examples where being reasonable beats being rational. Example 1. Investing in the stock market. A purely rational person might say, historically, small-cap value stocks have the highest long-term returns. I should put 100% of my portfolio there and rebalance every quarter. That's mathematically defensible based on decades of data. But in practice, small-cap value can underperform the broader market for 10 to 15 years at a stretch. Watching your account lag behind everyone else's for a decade tests even the strongest mind. Many people bail at the worst moment, locking in losses and missing the eventual rebound. A reasonable person says, I'll put most of my money in a simple, low-cost total stock market index fund that owns everything. It won't be the absolute highest return possible, but I know I can leave it alone for 30 years without second-guessing. They accept slightly lower expected returns in exchange for dramatically higher odds of actually staying invested through crashes, bubbles, and boring periods. History shows this reasonable approach beats the rational but abandoned one almost every time. Example 2. Saving and budgeting. Rational. Track every single dollar. Categorize every expense. Use zero-based budgeting. Review monthly. Cut anything that isn't optimal. This works beautifully for some personality types. For most people, it becomes exhausting within weeks. The mental load grows. Life gets busy. The spreadsheet gets ignored. Guilt builds when they fail. Eventually, they give up budgeting entirely and spend more freely to compensate. Reasonable. Aim to save 20 to 30% of take-home pay automatically. Live on the rest without micromanaging every coffee or lunch. Accept that some waste, dinners out, hobbies, small treats, keeps life enjoyable and prevents burnout. The savings still compound powerfully over time, and the habit sticks because it doesn't feel like punishment. The reasonable saver ends up wealthier long-term because consistency trumps perfection. Example 3. Paying off debt versus investing. Rational math. If your student loan is at 4% interest and you can earn 7 to 8% in the stock market, you should invest every extra dollar instead of paying off the debt early. The spread is positive. Compounding favors the market. Many financial calculators will tell you exactly this. Real life. Carrying debt creates psychological weight. Every monthly statement is a reminder. Market drops feel scarier when you owe money. Some people can't sleep well with debt hanging over them. They make irrational spending decisions to cope. I deserve this treat because life is stressful. Or they panic sell investments during a crash to pay off debt at the bottom. A reasonable approach, if the debt is low interest, say under 5%, and you have an emergency fund, split the difference, Pay extra on the debt for peace of mind while still investing regularly. Or pay it off aggressively if the emotional cost is high. The tiny difference in expected net worth is dwarfed by the benefit of sleeping well and staying consistent. Peace of mind is a financial return too. Example 4. Career and side hustles. Rational. Always chase the absolute highest paying job or gig. Switch roles every 2 to 3 years for 15 to 20% raises. Maximize income at all costs. This can work for some. For most, it leads to burnout, shallow skills, weaker networks, constant job hunting stress, and less time for family or health. Reasonable. Find work that pays well enough to support your savings rate and gives you reasonable hours, decent people, and work you don't hate. Stay long enough to build real expertise and relationships. Maybe keep a low-stress side project that could grow. Accept that a stable $120,000 job with good benefits and work-life balance often builds more wealth over 20 years than jumping between $180,000 roles that burn you out. The reasonable path usually compounds into higher lifetime earnings because you avoid the crashes, layoffs, health issues, resentment. Why does reasonable win so often? Because time is the most powerful force in money. Compounding needs decades. Markets need you to stay invested through ugly periods. Savings need to be automatic and boringly consistent. Habits need to survive bad months, busy seasons, and emotional lows. Rational plans often demand perfect execution every day for 20 or 30 years. Reasonable plans demand good enough execution most days, and forgiveness on the off days. A few guiding principles for staying reasonable. Accept good enough returns. 7 to 8% average annual returns, after inflation, over decades is life-changing. Chasing 12 to 15% usually means higher risk, more fees, more taxes, more stress, and often lower actual results because of behavior mistakes. Prioritize simplicity. 1 or 2 broad index funds, dozens of individual stocks or complex strategies. Automatic transfers, manual saving every month. 1 credit card with good rewards, juggling 5 cards for marginal points. Designed for your real personality, not your ideal one. If you hate checking your portfolio, don't pick volatile investments that tempt you to look daily. If you love gadgets, budget a small fun money allowance so you don't feel deprived and rebel. Build systems around your weaknesses, not against them. Measure success by behavior, not by spreadsheets. Did you keep investing during the last crash? Did your savings rate stay steady when life got expensive? Are you still excited, or at least calm, about your plan after 5 years? Those are the wins that matter. Give yourself permission to be human. You'll overspend sometimes. Markets will scare you. Life will throw curveballs. The goal isn't perfection. It's progress over decades. The most successful investors and savers aren't usually the ones with the highest IQ or the most financial knowledge. They're the ones who found a reasonable plan they could actually live with for 30 or 40 years. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors ever, didn't become rich by being hyper-rational every day. He became rich by being reasonable. Buy wonderful businesses at fair prices, hold them forever, don't do stupid things, let time work. His strategy is simple enough for almost anyone to copy, yet most people don't because they chase something sexier. Chapter 11. You and Money. We've covered a lot of ground together. We've talked about how no one is crazy when it comes to money, how luck and risk are inseparable, why enough is a moving target for so many, the difference between getting rich and staying rich, how tail events drive most big outcomes, the quiet power of freedom, the paradox of chasing admiration through things, why real wealth is invisible, the unmatched force of saving, and why being reasonable almost always beats being perfectly rational. Now we arrive at the final piece, the one that ties everything together. This isn't really about money at all. It's about you. Money is never just numbers on a screen or dollars in a bank. It's a mirror. It reflects your fears, your hopes, your values, your insecurities, your childhood memories, your dreams for tomorrow. Every decision you make with money, every save, every spend, every risk, every weight, is a small vote for the kind of person you want to be and the kind of life you want to live. The most important financial question isn't how much can I earn, or what's the best investment. It's this: what is my relationship with money teaching me about myself? Here are the quiet truths that tend to stick with people who build healthy, long-lasting relationships with money. Time is the real currency. You can always make more money. You can never make more time. The people who end up happiest aren't the ones with the biggest net worth. They're the ones who used whatever money they had to buy back time for the things and people that matter most. Control what you can, accept what you can't. You control your savings rate, your spending habits, your patience, your learning, how you treat people. You don't control markets, recessions, health crises, who wins elections, or when luck shows up. Focus fiercely on your side of the equation. Let the rest be. Behavior beats intelligence. A person with average math skills, but extraordinary consistency, will almost always end up wealthier than a genius who can't stick to a plan. Discipline and patience are rarer and more valuable than IQ when it comes to money. Enough is freedom. The moment you decide you have enough for the life you actually want, not the life that impresses others, you stop running someone else's race. That single decision can bring more peace than any investment return ever will. Money amplifies who you already are. If you're kind, generous, curious, grateful, money makes those traits louder and wider. If you're anxious, envious, insecure, money makes those louder too. Fix the inside first. The money will follow more happily. You will never feel ready. There is no magic number, no perfect market condition, no flawless plan that makes you feel 100% certain. Waiting to feel ready is just another form of procrastination. Start messy. Adjust as you go. Progress compounds faster than perfection. The game is long. Most big financial wins take 10, 20, 30 years to fully show up. That's frustrating when you're young and eager. It's beautiful when you're older and looking back. Play for the long arc, not the quarterly highlight reel. Be kind to yourself along the way. You will make mistakes. You will overspend. You will panic sell. You will miss opportunities. You will compare yourself to others. That's not failure. That's being human. The only real mistake is quitting on yourself because of those moments. One last small story to carry with you. There was once a woman who spent years feeling behind. Everyone around her seemed to have nicer houses, better cars, fancier vacations. She worked hard, saved what she could, invested simply. But the comparison never stopped stinging. One day, she sat down and wrote 2 lists. The first, things I want that I don't have yet. The second, things I already have that money can't buy. The second list was longer. Good health, a partner who laughed at her jokes, kids who hugged her every night, friends who called just to talk, mornings with coffee and quiet, evenings with books she loved, a body that still let her walk long trails. She looked at the 2 lists side by side and realized something simple. The first list was about things. The second list was about her life. She didn't stop saving or planning. But she stopped letting the first list define her worth. That shift changed everything. Money became a helper again, not a judge. Your relationship with money will evolve. It will look different in your 20s, 30s, 50s, 70s. That's normal. What matters is that you keep asking the honest questions. Does this choice bring me closer to the life I want? Am I using money, or is money using me? Am I grateful for what I already have, even as I work for more? When the answer to those questions feels mostly yes, you're doing it right. Money is one chapter in the book of your life. Not the whole book. Not even the most important chapter. But it can be a good supporting character, if you write it that way. Thank you for walking through these ideas with me. I hope something here made you think differently, feel a little lighter, or take one small step forward. Keep going. Keep saving. Keep being patient. Keep being kind, to others and especially to yourself. The best financial decisions are the ones that help you become the person you're proud to be, long after the money is spent or saved. That's the real win. And with that, our journey through the psychology of money, timeless money lessons comes to a close. Take care, friend. Your future self is already cheering for you.